that my site isn't porn so that people can find it through Google, which I actually did have to have that argument with them. So I want to end there and open it up to Q&A. So thanks.
If you have any questions, there's a microphone in the middle of the audience. Please use this one.
Yes, you use the example of Flickr having human interaction before they censor something, but this isn't always possible, like on Facebook, where you have content with this text and in different languages, like Dutch language. I don't think they have a lot of people working on that, and I have an example of a friend who got a hate group against him that eventually led to him losing his job and Facebook not interacting or doing something against it because I guess there wasn't someone to review it, or I don't know what happened, but it's not always possible, and especially in social media. There's so much content, and there's only so much one person can review. What's your view on this?
Right. I think that's true, and I think that's why so many companies... He was saying that basically the bounds of the expressible has to do with language, because if you're writing in a language that isn't the main language of that social media site, you may never get reviewed by a human. And I think that that's true. And it's part of why a lot of companies use algorithms to remove content rather than using humans to review it, because they'd rather just say, all right, well, like in the case of something like Orkut at Google, suddenly all these Brazilians were using it. They didn't really have that many people on staff. Now they do, but at the time that it blew up, they didn't have a lot of Portuguese speakers on staff. So it's easier with something like that. To just say, all right, well, we'll just choose an arbitrary number between 40 and 60, and if they get between 40 and 60 flags, then it's obviously unacceptable to the community that it's aimed at, and so we'll just get rid of it. So you have automated censorship, which can be completely manipulated by trolls or by political groups. Yeah.
Hi. You mentioned trolling as a tactic for mob censorship early on, and I'm not sure if you follow politics, but it's in America, the healthcare debates that are going on in America at the moment. There's a lot of right-wing activists going to these debates and basically trolling in real life, shutting down these debates and stopping it happening, which is obviously a form of mob censorship. Do you have any thoughts on how this tactic, which is clearly working both in the virtual world and the real world, can sort of be countered against?
Let's see. So are you asking whether there's any place for trolling in getting healthcare? Is that what you're asking?
No. Trolling is clearly a very effective technique. It's happening in the real world. So, what can we do about it?
Trolling the healthcare system. Right. Well, I think that, like any grassroots tactic, it's going to be appropriated by people with power, right? So that's a perfect example of, like the Paris Hilton video, it's a group with power that appropriates the style of trolling in order to persuade people. So yeah, I think that would be, I would class that as trolling for sure.
You claim that making information harder to find is basically also kind of censorship, because you had your example. You start with your example on Dig, where if it's on the front page, it's easy to find. If it's not on the front page, it's harder to find. But the point of many sites where people can vote for or against certain content, posts, whatever, is also to make the good stuff easier to find. I'm mostly familiar with Slashdot, for example, where every once in a while you get mod points that you can use to mod reactions from other people up or down depending on how valuable you think they are. And that means that the replies that are considered valuable jump out at you, and the ones that are useless and don't add anything to the discussion are hidden. But if you want to read them, you can read them. And I think that's really the important point. Also with Google, for example, Google wants the interesting, useful stuff on the top of the first page. If you make everything equally easy to find, then it becomes impossible to distinguish between what's valuable and what isn't.
Right.
What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, and I think, I mean, it's important that you raise that point, because the question is, do you want a totally flat surface where every piece of information is weighted equally? Well, we can't live that way, right? That's not how our brains function. We want certain kinds of information to pop up. We want we want curation of our information so we don't waste our time reading every single thing that's ever been submitted to Dig versus the things that the community says are interesting, or every single thing that's been submitted to Slashdot versus what the editors think is interesting. I think there's a difference between a crowd that picks information for you that you might find interesting or that might be relevant to your political life versus a social media site that basically, by its very algorithm, that it's using algorithms and by its very nature promotes an attitude of gaming toward information, which is what I think happens on places like Dig, that people play Dig like a game, not like a place where they're actually trying to get people to read important information. And so I think that's where things fall apart, is when people are encouraged to drown out important information just so that they can get the extra points of having gotten something on the front page. So I think there are ways of having social media where you actually do get valuable information from it. But I think that a lot of the way it's set up encourages censoring behavior and encourages crowd behavior that is not conducive to getting good information.
Yes, so trolling is basically the new form of censorship. Is that about right? Yeah.
I'm having a really hard time hearing people at the mic.
I'm sorry. Given trolling is basically the new form of censorship, and you can, as you gave with your Paris Hilton comparison, you can use it as well to counter the trolling itself, but that would still be trolling. Can you think of a solution for this problem?
You're going to have to restate the beginning a little. Wait.
Trolling is a new form of censorship.
Yeah.
Can you think of a solution?
Oh, a solution to trolling. Well, in America, we always say the solution to trolling is more trolling, although we don't put it that way. It's usually the solution to bad speech is more speech, which is why we have such a lovely public sphere in America, and why there's so many sort of dirty cigarettes in it. The solution to, I mean, it's very complicated because, as I was saying, trolling can be used for great justice. It can be used to bring down